Long before Rome's first stones were laid, ancient legend told of gods shaping its destiny, weaving threads of divine intent through mortal ambition and the fertile soil of Latium. The tale begins in Alba Longa, a proud Latin kingdom resting among rolling oak-crowned hills, where shepherds grazed their flocks and sacred groves whispered with the voices of old spirits. Here ruled King Numitor, a wise and just man beloved by his people, until treachery struck from within his own family, shattering the fragile peace of his reign. His younger brother, the ruthless Romulus, seized the throne through deception and force, exiling Numitor and destroying all heirs who might one day reclaim the crown. To prevent the birth of rivals, Romulus forced Numitor's daughter, Rhea Silvia, into the sacred Vestal order, cutting her off from marriage, motherhood, and all dynastic claims. The Vestal Virgins swore lives of purity, tending Vesta's eternal flame, their white-robed forms a symbol of Rome's spiritual heart and the unbroken continuity of its sacred fire. But the war god Mars came to Rhea Silvia in a fateful, mysterious meeting, leaving her with twin sons whose bloodline carried both mortal and divine heritage. When Romulus and Remus were born, Romulus remembered dark prophecies foretelling his fall, and fear gripped him like an iron chain around his ambition. He ordered the helpless infants drowned in the Tiber, but heavy rains had swelled the river into a wild current that foiled his assassins. The wicker basket carrying the twins drifted downstream, rocking gently until it lodged against the roots of a wild fig tree by the Palatine Hill. Here, a she-wolf found them. Not driven by hunger, she approached with strange gentleness, guided, some said, by the unseen hand of the gods. She curled her warm body around them, shielding them from icy winds, her steady heartbeat lulling the crying infants into a fragile, protected sleep. A woodpecker, sacred to Mars, brought morsels of food, its bright wings flashing in the dappled light beneath the fig tree's sheltering branches. One day, a humble shepherd named Faustulus discovered the scene and, awed by the miracle, carried the swaddled twins away from danger. With his wife, Acca Laurentia, Faustulus raised the boys as their own, teaching them the rhythms of pastoral life and the wisdom of the hills. Romulus and Remus grew strong in limb and sharp of mind, mastering the arts of hunting, tracking, and living in harmony with the wilderness. Among the shepherd youth, they became leaders, fearless in battle against wild predators and daring in raids against rival herding bands. Their courage brought them into conflict with herders loyal to Romulus, stirring an undercurrent of rebellion beneath the hills. In one clash, Remus was captured and dragged in chains to Alba Longa, accused of plotting treason against the king. Romulus learned of his true lineage from Faustulus and rallied loyal companions, vowing to rescue his brother and fulfill their destiny. They stormed Alba Longa, slew Romulus in the struggle, and restored the weary Numitor to the throne he had been long denied.
Although welcomed in Alba Longa, the brothers hungered for a legacy that was theirs alone, a city born of their will, not inherited. They returned to the Tiber's bank, standing at the very place where the river had once spared their lives. The Palatine Hill, high and defensible, rich in sacred memory, seemed to them the ideal site for their future city. But a dispute arose over which hill to choose and who would rule, and neither would yield to the other's claim. They sought the gods' judgment, agreeing to watch the skies for a sign, and augury that would grant divine approval to one. At first light, Remus saw 6 vultures circling above, a sign he took as the heavenly seal of his right to lead. Soon after, Romulus counted 12 vultures, claiming the greater number proved the gods favored him above his twin. Accusations of deceit followed, each brother suspecting the other of trickery in reporting the signs. Romulus began digging a sacred furrow and raising a low wall, marking the city's first protective boundary. Defiant, Remus leapt over the wall in mockery, breaking the ritual sanctity and openly challenging his brother's authority. In fury, Romulus struck him down, declaring no enemy, brother or otherwise, would cross Rome's defenses and live. Grief shadowed his triumph, but Romulus pressed on, determined to see the city completed in honor of its founding. Rome was thus born, its foundations steeped in sacrifice, its destiny shaped by loyalty, blood, and the unyielding vision of a single leader. Romulus divided the citizens into tribes, assigning sacred duties, military obligations, and roles in the governance of their growing home. He formed a senate of elders, whose counsel would help guide the young city through challenges and wars to come. To strengthen Rome, he welcomed fugitives, exiles, and wanderers, granting them safety in exchange for loyalty and service. But the absence of women threatened Rome's future, for no new generation could arise without them. Romulus invited the Sabines to a festival, hiding a plan to seize their daughters and bind 2 peoples through force. The abduction outraged the Sabines, who marched on Rome, determined to reclaim their kin and punish the betrayal. Yet the Sabine women, now wives and mothers, stepped between the armies, refusing to see fathers and husbands spill blood. A pact was struck. Rome would be ruled jointly by Romulus and the Sabine king, Titus Tatius. Together, they fortified the walls, expanded the territory, and honored the gods with festivals binding their peoples as one. When Tatius died, Romulus ruled alone, feared for his military might and revered for his unwavering leadership. Legend says that in a sudden storm he vanished, carried to the heavens by Mars to watch eternally over the city he had built.